Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the press. Thanks for being here again once more. This morning, our first speaker is Honorable Kenson Kazimi, Minister for Youth Development and Sports. He has a few remarks.
Good morning, everybody. Of course, we have a couple of developments in our community as it pertains to youth and sports development. I will start off by congratulating veterans in sports on a very well put together program over the weekend, Kick for Cure initiative, which pretty much aimed to sensitize individuals on some of the challenges of cancer and sort of try to promote or allow men to really take the lead in getting tested and doing what they need to do through sport. We also have some developments with regards to the National Aquatic Center. We're expecting a lot of work to commence this week, weather permitting, in terms of concrete and steel at Beausejour. We have a timeline of 14 months for completion of this project, and we are certainly hoping that the weather allows us to deliver that to the Aquatic fraternity in St. Lucia. We've also had some developments in the car racing fraternity, where some of you would know that we've been recently furnished with information as to a place properly called the Kakabef being leased to a private entity, which will not allow us to have some of the usual activities that we have during this time under alternative sport. So, that being said, questions?
Some time ago, you would have, I think, done a tour of places, alternative locations for car racing. What became of that, and why did the government take this decision to I guess, approve a lease? Understanding people been clamoring for this area.
First and foremost, the lease was signed. We discovered quite recently that the lease was signed in the year 2017. As you would know, I was not the Minister of Government, as a matter of fact. During that time, I was working with you, the media, and we discovered that quite recently. There were some speculations. We are currently, as a government, the AG Chambers currently has requested the full details for that lease. Of course, it was signed with SLASPA, and so we will find some more information from SLASPA in the coming week on what actually happened, why that lease was signed by the previous administration. I will say, as a Minister of Sport, almost immediately upon given that responsibility, we endeavored to speak to the car racing fraternity on a proper venue. And I say proper because the Kakabef, whereas we have the emotional attachment to it, we really desire to have a proper facility equipped with proper stands for the viewing public, proper washroom facilities, proper change room for the actual racers, and it would require a vast amount of space, whereas the Kakabef just gives you the opportunity to just have the racing aspect. And so we did have a number of meetings, I could say, for the last couple of years. We've narrowed it down to two areas, which is the cul-de-sac area and an area that was in discussion previously in Dennery. Both areas have a tremendous cost in terms of proper drainage to allow for functioning activity to actually happen there, because we live in the tropics. And so the decision, we were gravitating in consultation with the racing fraternity to cul-de-sac. Once we started having discussion on cul-de-sac, we realized as a government that again, we were moving activities from the south of the island. And so we met with Crown Land and other stakeholders to see, where it is in Viewfort, so we can actually put the racing track. We identified a place which was close to the airport, and the advice given by SLASPA was that it was in a buffer zone in case of emergencies. And so people have asked why we've taken this amount of time, but the fact of the matter is we really wanted to keep car racing in the south. And we are at a point where we really have to bite the bullet and decide to bring it up north, more than likely in the area of cul-de-sac. It's going to cost us a pretty penny. We have the designs, we have the drawings, and we're going to continue that discussion. We're going to eventually find and have that venue for car racers in St. Lucia.
Okay, just clarification sake here. The Ministry of Youth and Sport would have found out about that lease when, how, and from whom?
Okay, so until the notice was officially put in terms of the lease, we are actually still getting information. I, as minister, we've certainly not seen the details from that lease. And so I could tell you, as a minister, I would have said in the last 2 weeks, there was conversation about it, because a lot of the times we were already having discussions about where we can actually have something proper for the car racers. And I've heard somewhere in the media people have said that we knew, or I knew for a very long time. That is not true. I would say less than a month we've been trying to get the final information in terms of when the lease was signed, by who, what is the reason for signing that lease. And so far I can definitively say that it was signed in 2017, and more information will be passed on to you through SLASPA, who has all the intimate details.
That's between government, as you said, SLASPA, and which agency and for what exactly?
I tend to try to stay away from naming private entities, but I think it's been in the public sphere that it is Rubis who will be providing some fuel and that sort of stuff to the airport and airplanes, and that is the theory behind signing that sort of agreement.
So can anything be done? Because I've realized a petition is going around. So is this even going to bring any kind of results for the racers?
The fact of the matter is, for me as the minister, I would love for us to be able to have a definitive decision about this very, very soon. The AG chambers, like I said, they are reviewing the documents, reviewing the details of the lease, and exploring whether or not this government could find some clause to retract that lease or defer that lease until we actually find a suitable location for car racing. Once we look at every single clause and we know legally we're not going to be putting the taxpayers of St. Lucia under any strain, I think we will make that decision. Again, that is a legal decision. The AG chambers will advise on, they will opine on. And once I have that information, if it means that we can retract that lease, I would happily do that on behalf of the car racers of St. Lucia.
Okay. And we saw the design of a youth services center, and some people have concerns about placing females and males in the same area. What are your thoughts on the design? What are your thoughts on the center in general?
Well, that design did not come from the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports. I think it would be more appropriate for the line minister to give more information on the entire concept. But I think we live in a country where we have male and female. No matter what, I think we can coexist. I think we can have a design that makes everybody comfortable. And I think once that is given full consideration, we can move forward with the project. We do have other designs for projects in St. Lucia as it pertains to youth. We've received some architectural drawings for a national youth and entertainment center in Boseju. As you would know, that I said very early in my tenure that I think it's very important for us to establish a venue for hosting events that will take away some of the activities from our premier venue in St. Lucia. We've received the architectural drawings. We are looking at the cost, and we are certainly going to be making decisions in terms of time frame for establishing that for the youth and entertainment sector in St. Lucia.
Minister, the drawings that you have before you for the establishment of an alternative location for motocross, drawings, design, intention, did that start with your administration?
Let me make this abundantly clear. When I came in as minister, there was absolutely no document, no information, no plan anywhere in the Ministry of Youth Development and Sport for a racing track in St. Lucia. Let me say this again. I, as minister, have never seen any plan, any document, any agreement with a contractor, any design. When I came in as minister, I never saw anything from the previous administration. You would have heard different discussions, oh, we wanted to do and oh, we wanted to do. And I say to people quickly, we wanted to establish an additional 23 islands in Beaufort. I say that to say that anything can be said, but there was no application through DCA, there was no design, there was no application for planning for anything to do with car racing. Every single piece of information you will find now on car racing has been developed by this administration. Any positive sign to actually legitimize car racing as a sport in St. Lucia has been done through the Alternative Sports Department that we established as a government in collaboration with Invest St. Lucia. Invest St. Lucia would be the agency seeing the potential in sports tourism for car racing in St. Lucia. They've been seeking sort of support from outside agencies to actually invest in car racing into the plans that we have, the designs that we have to have a structured car racing fraternity in St. Lucia. These are the facts.
Mr. Last question from me. You were the minister who developed the alternative sports season, which includes car racing, drag racing, etc. Very exciting season from National Day last year. Can we look forward to similar, despite what's going on?
Yeah, so despite what's been happening in terms of the car racing sector, we are still going to have a number of activities to really commemorate the alternative sports season, which is from December 13th on to February 22nd. We'd still have the chess competitions. We're still designing some concepts for racing, whether it's expose, whether it's sound clashes, whether it's activities in terms of chess competitions, draft competition. We are still going to go forward with our activities. But the desire is for, in the coming year after, that we would have had some significant progress in the establishment of a racing track for St. Lucia. Whether we do a phase approach, considering the cost, we will be exploring that as an option, but we are certainly having the season this year as we've had in previous years.
That's it.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, our second presenter, Honorable Jeremiah Norbert, Minister for Home Affairs, Crime Prevention and Persons with Disabilities, will now address us.
Jerry, what you want? It's you that always wants something. Alright, so no, just a brief statement. So, good morning. This morning, I just want to take the opportunity to wish in advance Happy International Day of Persons with Disability to the community of persons with disability living in St. Lucia. And this year we celebrate under the global theme, Amplifying Leadership of Persons with Disabilities for an Inclusive and Sustainable Future. And I would also thank the Prime Minister for seeing the need this year to give disability the type of recognition and the type of attention that it requires by ensuring that he gave a specific ministry the responsibility to deal with disability and disability affairs. And we have done quite a bit from the time that we started through the ministry. I also want to thank the Department of Equity, who had the responsibility prior and who literally set they put down the groundwork for us, and we took it from them. It's just a battle, handing over of a battle, and we took it from them. In 2020, St. Lucia signed on, we ratified the Convention for the Rights of Persons with Disability. And as we all know, when you ratify a convention, it's just signing a piece of paper. And we figured that that was not enough. So what we would have done after that is to give legs to the principles of the convention. And we ensured that after we made a ministry for persons with disability, we have embarked on creating a national disability policy Tomorrow we will be at the Derek Walcott Square from 9 a.m. to celebrate. I think it's at the Constitution Park. Oh, it's Derek Walcott Square. Yes, we'll be at Derek Walcott Square to celebrate the International Day of Persons with Disability. At that celebration, we will see individuals with disability put on a show for us. We're also going to have a formal gathering in the morning, and in the afternoon we have what we call a mini concert. But most of the individuals who are going to be there will be persons with disability. And this is the first time that we're going to be giving the type of precedence, the type of importance to the International Day of Persons with Disability. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I'll also be there to deliver a few remarks. But as a government, we've done quite a bit. We've made it our business to ensure that every decision we take, we try to ensure that we give consideration to persons with disabilities. So for education, for instance, we've expanded the scholarship program to ensure that persons with disability now have an equal opportunity to be able to get a scholarship and to succeed. We're looking at putting together a disability registry. We've already started the groundwork as it relates to that. We've partnered with CARICOM and other agencies, international agencies, and Indian company to ensure that persons who are unable to afford a prosthetic limb, for instance, will have an opportunity to be able to get a prosthetic limb at no cost. And we know how the type of empowerment that comes with being able to, I can stand on my feet today because I have a prosthetic limb. And we know that some persons, the truth is, some people just cannot afford a prosthetic limb. So we have a situation whereby we're able to partner along with CARICOM, with the help of the CARICOM and our CARICOM member states, with an Indian company, and very soon we'll see persons in Lucia receiving prosthetic limbs for free. We're working on getting, as we speak, Prime Minister has already given us the go-ahead to go and get a space that is accessible to put the, because currently the Ministry of Disability Affairs is not a very accessible space. You would know number 5 Monjero Street. So we're going, Prime Minister have given us the go-ahead and the all clear to go and get a space that is disability friendly and that is accessible. And we don't want it to just be the building that is going to be utilized for persons with disability. We don't just want it to be accessible, but the aim is moving forward, especially for our building codes and whatnot, any building that is going to be providing a public good or public service to ensure that persons with disability can access these buildings, from elevators to ramps. The plan is to ensure moving forward that we're able to pass that type of disability-specific legislation that will create the type of empowerment that we're looking for persons with disability. And as Minister, I pledge to continue to be the voice for those persons in the community. We had a stakeholder meeting. We held a stakeholder meeting about a month and a half ago. That went very well. We got quite a bit of recommendations coming from that meeting. And we held a meeting with persons who are within the sphere of persons with disability, so the blind welfare, along other agencies. They came in and we had a very good meeting and quite a few recommendations. We realized there are some low-hanging fruits, and we're going to move very swiftly to try to implement some of these low-hanging fruits. So I just want to wish again everybody in St. Lucia, especially those persons in the community of disability, persons with disability, a happy International Disability Day tomorrow, and I look forward to celebrating with them. And just to close off that note, I want to encourage persons, the general public, the general community. We have a culture in St. Lucia where people are not very disability friendly. People don't respect disability specific legislation or signs. You see, can disregard when you go into the supermarkets, when you go along Bridge Street next to the General Post Office, by the church, opposite the Catholic Church. 90% of the times, persons who are not disabled occupy the parkings for persons with disability. I think they say, I know in Trinidad there's something called name them and shame them, where you literally highlight those persons who pay disregard to the signs for persons with disability. But I think now is a time, especially looking at where we're going as a country, now is a time where we have to shift. We must have a sort of paradigm shift as it relates to the culture and how we deal with persons with disability. So I want to encourage, I think the only disability, and I've said that before, the only disability that anybody can have is the inability to see ability in somebody who has a disability. Yeah? So some of us will believe that because you're disabled you cannot do anything. I think that is the only disability, is the mindset that some of us have as it relates to persons with disability. So having said that, I want to just wish everybody in St. Lucia who has a disability, and I want to thank those caregivers, those family members who have been providing care for persons with disability, a happy International Disability Day.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Minister. Congratulations, happy Persons with Disability Day as well. Good.
Yes, thank you.
Just recently, there was this young kid from the Southern District, because I remember some years before the Football Association went to the home of this kid. He wanted to play football, and it was so heartening to hear that when he entered school, there was a big, welcome ceremony for him. And is that a motivation for other, there are other kids who don't get that much attention, but is there some ways that they could reach out to somebody or somebody could reach out to them, get them more integrated into the development?
And that is the whole idea and the whole ethos of the ministry. And that is why we're trying to set up a disability ministry, a disability registry. So at any given point, we should be able to know where anybody with a disability is located in St. Lucia. And everybody from, if you have a disability at birth, it's supposed to be captured so that we know what type of care you require. If you get a disability like my situation where it's just an accident for an accident or something of that sort, you should be able to be captured. So at any given time, through our database, we know who is there and what type of care they need. So now we can now create that type of environment where when you have activities, it can be all-inclusive, you can incorporate all of them. Because one of the challenges we have now is persons with disability, because of the culture, the general culture that we have in St. Lucia, persons with disability tend to want to stay inside closed doors. They don't want to be seen because, people make fun of them. The general culture is not one that is very pleasant for somebody with a disability. I, having a disability in my position, sometimes I go through, they look down type of thing. You understand? Like people look down on you like, oh, this man has a disability. So I can imagine what others go through. And the challenge is they don't want to be seen outside. And sometimes from birth, there are people who live in the community and maybe 15, 20, 30 years, they barely go outside. And other persons in the community are not even, except those immediate family members, are not even aware that your neighbor may have a disability. And that is what we're trying to, that's the malady that we're trying to cure, to ensure that people feel empowered, they feel emboldened, and they don't feel that they should be restricted because they have a disability. And one of the ways that we can do that is by ensuring that we change the culture, and that's why I called for a paradigm shift from the culture that we have now, one where people are more receptive to persons with disability, more accepting, and they understand that people with disability have a positive contribution to make. And people with disability, most times, they're not persons asking for handout, They believe that they can go out there, they can create that type of economic viability for themselves and their family if we create the environment for them. And as a government, we have a responsibility to ensure that we create that type of environment where they can thrive. And it is my job to ensure that I create that environment, and that is what we're working on as a government.
Okay. And in terms of, you talk about facilities, the recreational center, was, we have these kids going out into the Paralympics, into cricket and what. Would the recreational centers, accommodate them? They have facilities to accommodate them?
Yeah, so earlier I would have said one of the things we're looking for is moving forward. We really cannot alter a lot of what has already been established, but we have an opportunity moving forward to be able to create, ensure that our recreational facilities are accessible. As we speak now, I'm doing some work. Every one of my facilities that I'm doing at the constituency level, I started using myself as an example from my preschools, the cemetery, everything that I'm doing in my constituency. I'm trying to ensure that I make it as accessible as I can so that everybody can access it. And I think if each of us start this way, what it's going to create is that type of domino effect where almost every building that you have. But one of the ways that you ensure that you get people to abide is by passing legislation. And that is why we're going to ensure that we have disability-specific legislation. The building code, I know that there were some recommendations made, but it has not been enacted. It has been sitting down for a while. We're going to look at it. I've asked the legal officer within my ministry to look at it, review it, because it's been sitting down there for a while. We may have to do some tweaking and to ensure, and I'm sure that Prime Minister and my entire cabinet will give the full support to the building code when we're ready, to ensure that persons, especially, as I said, buildings, if you build in your private home, you build your private home however you want, but you're going to be providing a public good or public service, and that somebody with a disability is unable to access that good or service because of accessibility issues. So we're going to ensure that we pass legislation to try to cure that problem.
What about the crime prevention aspects of your portfolio? What is going on? Because we saw 2 shooting incidents over the weekend, a few robberies were recorded. What's new in that portfolio of yours?
So, as we speak of crime, I'll tell you, I came from a meeting for Ministers of Security in St. Kitts Consulate. Over the weekend, I returned home over the weekend, a 3-day meeting with other Ministers of Security around the region. And one of the things that came from the meeting is that the situation that we face with as a country is not unique to us as a country. You look at Turks and Caicos, for instance, begging and pleading for help because of the escalation of crime and violent crime in these countries. So we've realized that this situation is one that is not just St. Lucia specific. However, that is no excuse for us to be accepting of it, or for us to just lay back and say because it's happening in the region that we should just say it's happening in the region, we should accept it. My job as Minister of Crime Prevention is I control little, I'm supposed to coordinate a lot. So I don't control the police, right? I don't control quite a few of the agencies. But what I'm supposed to do is to coordinate the efforts to ensure that the social agencies, SSDF, our Boys Matter program, the Department of Education, and the school security system is to be able to coordinate their efforts to ensure that we can have a holistic approach as it relates to crime and crime prevention. I think there's a common misconception as it relates to office, Minister of Responsibility for Crime Prevention. So usually if you hear a shooting, somebody asks, Minister, what's happening? The response to a shooting would be done by the police, right? And we may coordinate some of the efforts of the police. We don't control what the police do. The police falls directly under the Minister of National Security, who is the Prime Minister. However, the social component, the softer parts, and we have agencies like Alliance for Community Transformation, who used to be with the St. Lucia Social Development Fund, SSDF. Their job is to also provide some level of coordination with all the agencies, private partners, NGOs. They're now going to move from SSDF and come under the head Ministry of Crime Prevention. And they're going to be working hand in glove with us so that we can coordinate all our efforts. I know a lot of politics have been played with this whole Minister of Crime Prevention portfolio. And I tell people I can stand any day, anywhere, and say that one thing that I'm proud of as a young minister is that the Prime Minister, I know for a fact, my Prime Minister does not sleep good at night when he hears there's a shooting. Yeah? Because it has implications not just for us as a cabinet. We're just 17 strong as a cabinet. Yeah? But for the general populace of St. Lucia. And nobody should ever celebrate or enjoy when there's a homicide. Although sometimes it feels that some people are enjoying the fact, when you hear them speak about crime, they are enjoying the fact that we have in certain homicides. I'm happy with the current work. I thank the former commissioner for work. The current commissioner has been doing, we've seen an increase in police presence. Up to this morning, I attended the launching of a program, the database program, where we provide the police with even more resources in terms of their database, where now we know what happens with a roadblock. Somebody is able to just go in a group and put roadblock in Richford, roadblock back road. The police have not been equipped with the necessary technological infrastructure to be able to combat that type of interception. What we've done now is through that database, the police will be able to have a platform where they can have information sharing, and within milliseconds they're able to access, so they too can combat and they too can intercept when these individuals, because criminal elements, what we've seen is they move from one stage to another in terms of how they utilize the technology. Crime has become very organized in this country, and the police now has to do their part. So I thank the police for what they've done, and I encourage them to continue to put their best foot forward, and they have the full support, and Prime Minister has said it repeatedly, that they have the full support of this government when it comes to, once they stay within the general parameters of the law, we are going to support them. And Christmas is coming. I want to send a message to those individuals involved in criminal activity and especially those involved in violent crimes. This government will stop at nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, to ensure that we put a hold on this problem. We are going to go above and beyond to ensure, I don't think that a few individuals should be empowered to the point where they can disrupt the operations of a country. And as a government, we have a responsibility to act, and we have the agencies that we have given the necessary empowerment to act. We're going to continue to support them. Whilst we do that, we're going to continue with our social programs. So you're going to see quite a few social programs rolling out. Those that are already there, like the Boys Matter. You see, even for the TVET, when the whole idea of TVET was conceptualized, there was also the component of crime prevention in the whole conception, because some persons are saying, the data is saying, some of the individuals are saying that they don't want to go to sit down in a classroom. But if they have something where they're hands-on, they're less likely to commit a crime. So that also, we also took that into consideration, that we give you an opportunity, we give you an alternative to crime. So persons have no reason. I hear no crying and asking for workers. So it is not a situation where we see the economic growth. People are looking. We see a boom in the construction industry. So there is work. So for young people to use the excuse of, oh, they don't have work and that's why I have to resort to crime, the government is doing, we're giving scholarships to individuals. Children who ordinarily would not have been able to afford to go to university, they now have an opportunity. We are doing quite a bit to ensure that we provide opportunities to individuals so that they do not have to resort to crime. And when they decide to resort to crime, then we have no choice but to do what we have to do as a government. And if it means that whatever we have to administer, as I said, whenever the police are working within the parameters of the law, we're going to give them all the support. I cannot feel sorry for individuals who deliberately wake up on a morning and choose to take a gun and go and shoot somebody. I cannot feel sorry for you when you decide to go and do that and disrupt the entire operation of a country. And it's just a handful. 99% of St. Lucians are loving, wonderful, beautiful people. And just a handful of individuals who decide. And that's why I think also we have to get the police to utilize. We have gang-specific legislation. I think now the conversation is right for us to decide how we're going to utilize it. Because we've seen, and coming from the heels of the meeting in St. Kitts, we would have realized that all over the Caribbean we see more and more gangs emanating. We see more and more gangs mushrooming into more structured organizations. And it requires deliberate and direct intervention, and we are going to provide the deliberate and direct intervention that it requires to ensure that we arrest the situation once and for all. We can't continue living like that. People can, especially look at what happened in the square. People can be, that is unacceptable. That is unacceptable. And everybody who is government, opposition, doesn't matter where you stand, what position you hold in the society, everybody has a responsibility to denounce this type of actions. Because it could have been any one of us walking by the square on that day that could have been hit by a stray bullet, and today we could not have been here. And these are the incidents when I refer to some people have to face the full brunt of the law. Some people have to face it. You can't be so brazen and think that you will just continue living your life like that. And as Minister for Crime Prevention, I said I give the police my full support as it relates to their efforts in crime prevention.
Question. So, my question to you is resources. The resources of the police so far have been dwindling in the sense of we have, as much as we have living, is basically what you have coming in, so it remains always at the base. You would know that as an officer, ex-officer yourself. We know for sure certain departments in the police force, especially traffic. When I tried doing something with traffic just recently, again, the manpower is not there. So are we presently, with that happening with the police force, can we see, apart from, I believe you all should have a new set coming in soon, but as soon as we have them coming in, it's as much as we have leaving. So it's basically like turning top in mud. What do you intend to do to basically dampen that situation? Because it's a big problem with the police force. Yes, we give them the cars, we give them the bikes, but we do not have people now to man it. What do we intend to do to basically curb that problem? Because basically everybody's saying is manpower.
Okay, so it calls for a deeper conversation in terms of how the human resource of the police is distributed. Because if you look at the numbers in St. Lucia, and you look at, we have in excess of 1,000 police officers in St. Lucia. Are we looking at a population of about 200,000, just under 200,000 people, right? When you look at other jurisdictions, we're above par in terms of police officer per person. So that's why I say this requires a deeper conversation, one that may require an internal audit into how the human resource capital of the organization is managed, how you deploy individuals, where is it more necessary? Do you need so many people sitting down at offices? Do you need more boots on the ground? But these are conversations that must be held at the hierarchy and at the executive level of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, because they know we do not go, as a government, we do not go and micromanage the affairs of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. They have a responsibility to look at what do they have and how can they best utilize the resources that they have to them, albeit human or infrastructure or equipment. And as you said, equipment about, it looks like we're replacing, we have over 80 recruits who are going to graduate on the 15th of December. Prime Minister have made a public announcement that in March, we are going to see a new cohort of individuals at training school. It is the reason he has made this announcement is because he realized that yes, we have an issue as it relates to manpower. But let's not forget, these issues, and that's why I commend the Prime Minister every time I get an opportunity, these issues that we speak about now, they did not start now, but we are addressing them. Nonetheless, we are addressing them. These are issues that have been plaguing the organization for decades, administration after administration. But the Philip JPA administration saw it necessary, and hence the reason he's going to put in the resources to ensure that these individuals, we give the police the type of resources that they require, both human and equipment. I heard talk about replacement vehicles, replacement equipment. Between 2016 and 2021, I want anybody to go, and as Prime Minister said, do a fact check, see how much vehicles were replaced. Are you telling me that between that time, that we did not have vehicles would have outlived their usefulness and they were put on the side? How many of them were replaced? This administration, in 3.5 years, have given in excess of 70 vehicles to the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. Go and look at that, from motorcycles, ATVs, jet skis, novel. You've never seen that. The police, the force tells us what they need. What do you need to combat crime? You realize that you have big boats and you cannot go certain places when you're doing certain chases. You realize you make a case to the Prime Minister and say as well, if we get a few jet skis, it's going to help us navigate some of the areas where you have corals lying low and our engines are not able to go through there. Prime Minister did not think twice. He ensured that he gave it to you. So from Prime Minister's end and from the government's position, remember the government, what we do is we provide policy direction. The policy direction in that instance is we want to see crime stop. We want to see the situation arrested, this crime situation arrested, and we provide what is required of us. We're not the one putting in the request, Those technical individuals from Commissioner of Police and other individuals involved within the crime fighting battle, they put their proposal together and now we go and we deliver for them. So we've given them more than enough, and we're going to continue to provide them with the resources that they need, and not just physical resources, the training. And every time Prime Minister gets an opportunity, he tries to negotiate more and more trainings for the police so that they too, we have a situation that is escalating now in cybercrime. And the Prime Minister is ensuring that he's doing everything that he can to ensure that our police are able to combat cybercrime, because it's a threat that is facing us as a country. And it is a conversation that we must have almost at a national level very soon. Because when you look at from the banks and cybercrime has the potential to destroy an entire economy if you allow it to go unabated. So we're going to do everything that we do. We continue to do our best, and we're going to continue to provide the support to the police at every given opportunity that we get. That's it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Today I just want to present the tourism arrival numbers for the month of October, and I can say October happens to be the best October we've ever had on record. The stay-over arrivals for the month was 30,408, which was 15% higher than last October and 13% higher than October 2019. And October 2019 was our best October ever, and this year has surpassed that by 13%. And as I said, it's the highest recorded figure for the month of October ever. And this growth was primarily led by arrivals from both the US and the Caribbean. The US was 25% higher than last October, and the Caribbean was 30% higher than October 2023. There were a number of activities and events taking place in St. Lucia during the month of October. We had Journée Creole, we had football, we had the Red Lac Conference, we had Billfish Tournament, and there were quite a lot of activities taking place. We also had a 21% increase in seats for the month of October. So we saw in the US, the increase by 44%, American Airlines service from Miami and Charlotte. We had JetBlue service from JFK. In the Caribbean, we saw increased flights from Inter-Caribbean. And of course, in the UK, the number of seats increased by 6% with the introduction of the Virgin Atlantic service. So year to date, stayover arrivals is up 16% on last year to date, and 4% from 2019. And 2019, as stated before, is our best year. So we're already 4% ahead of 2019. And 2 months to go, which would be November and December. And we haven't got the November figures yet, but we're expecting November also to have been a very good month. So we're on track for 2024 to be the best year ever for stayover arrivals. And we have already indicated it will be the best year for cruise passengers. We're expecting at least 825,000 cruise passenger arrivals for 2024. And we're certainly on track to see the best year. So the figures are quite good. You would have heard over the last few days, there was a particular gentleman who was on television speaking about taxi drivers and taxi complaints in the taxi sector. We did contact the association, and the association said they were not even aware, and he certainly was not speaking on their behalf. But we all know the individual, and we know the motivation. But what we will do as a ministry is, starting from next week, we'll meet with all the taxi associations to listen to them, to hear what they're saying. We're in constant contact with them. We've had meetings with them, and again, next week we'll meet with them to ascertain any issues they have and how we can work with them to resolve those issues. So we're in constant contact. We also want to discuss with them an update on the implementation of the TX taxi plates. Again, there have been some queries made, and we will update them where we are, and we will discuss with them the way forward to make sure, because we're under a lot of pressure from persons wanting TXs. And we keep saying to them, we're completing the conversion of H to TX right now, and we will do the study, which will inform us. But we're under a lot of pressure. So we will be consulting with the taxi sector over the next couple of weeks and make sure that all of us are on the same page and that we can move forward together.
On the matter of the cruise sector, we heard of some robberies taking place there at Point Seraphim.
At Point Seraphim?
Yeah. Some visitors did get robbed. So what is being done about that?
Well, I haven't heard about Point Seraphim, but let me say to you.
Not at Point Seraphim. I think there's a big space between the pyramid and the finance center.
Yeah, but regardless of where it happened, it's totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. And we're going to have a meeting, a discussion with the Commissioner of Police, because we before the season started, as minister, I made an appeal to all the agencies to get all their plans in place, knowing that we're going to have a bumper tourist season. And I appeal to all of them, NCA, police, Ministry of Tourism, Tourism Authority, every single agency. They were told, let us get our plans in place, let's get our business in order, because we will have a bumper season. And we expect all agencies to be on board to ensure that those incidents do not occur. And again, we will meet with the Commissioner of Police. I will brief the Prime Minister when he comes in today, because I got a couple of reports, and we will have to step up our activities. We have made monies available for the re-establishment of the Rangers unit. I know some work has been done to re-establish it, but it is taking too long. We need to get the Rangers unit going. We need to ensure that at all the strategic places where visitors frequent, we need to have the capacity for us to prevent any harassment and any incidents of crime against visitors. It is something that we're not going to tolerate, and certainly as a government, we want to send out a very clear signal that this is totally unacceptable, and we expect the agencies, whether it's the police, whether it's the city council, whether it's the NCA, to put the measures in place to ensure that we can protect visitors when they come to this country. Of course, they also have to protect locals. I mean, that one is very clear. So it's a clear indication that we cannot tolerate crime. But there are people who believe visitors are easy targets and they must go after them. And we must send a clear signal that we do not tolerate any crime. And certainly we will go all out, and we will have that conversation with the police over the next few days to see how they can step up their activity.
I know this is not your portfolio, but as the tourism minister, there's been complaints about the road conditions leading down to Sufra, which is one of our main tourist spots. What is the government doing in that regard? Because it's not that the people are, the motoring public, also the NCOPT, are against the road being fixed, but what is happening while that is going on? It's really causing damage, as I said, to their vehicles, and just the road conditions are not conducive for driving. Well,
the senior minister will be briefing cabinet this morning on those issues. And of course, we've had a lot of rain for the last couple of weeks. So the roads have deteriorated beyond expectation. But we still need to take into account, the welfare of commuters. And we have to ensure that as much that can be done must be done. And I believe we have said to Namalco, who the roads have been handed over to, because it's a construction site, that they need to do more to make sure that commuters have an easier passage of way. Of course, it will cost them some money. Obviously, they have to do more to make sure that the road is more motorable. But they have to step up. And when Senior Minister briefs us at Cabinet, that message will be sent to him, will be given to him to send to the contractors. That they have, yes, there's been rain. Let's not blame them for the condition of the road. There've been a lot of rains. In fact, it has affected a lot of the roadworks around the island. But the commuters want, greater attention to the condition of the road, and we have to say to Namalco, they need to do something as quickly as possible. So that will be addressed this morning at Cabinet.
Have our creatives been paid for Carnival? Just an update on that, because I know a lot was said, but we never received an update. So were they paid?
Yeah. Well, the creatives have been paid. There are still some outstanding bills, and we've said to the agencies responsible vendor to just tap and pay the little 15 US because they don't want to carry cash with them. So the whole business is evolving and changing. And only recently the ministry had a competition, design your souvenir among secondary schools, where we said to secondary school children, design the souvenirs you want St. Lucia to be selling. Because everybody's saying everything we have is Chinese, and foreign. Well, let's design our own souvenirs and we'll get people to produce it to sell. So we had a competition, and hopefully we will announce the winners to show you what people came up with. We have to sell more authentic, more local stuff, and also at affordable prices, because some of the visitors tell you the prices we charge for some of the stuff is really, for them, unreasonable. So yeah, we have to work it out. Yeah. That's it. All right. Thank you very much. Bring in all the invoices, because we have a situation where invoices, stagger in. So we've given them a deadline by which all invoices must come in to be processed and payments to be made. And I'm hoping we can do that as quickly as possible. All suppliers need to send in their invoices as quickly as possible. It's really frustrating that, you make payments and then in November, 5 bills come. And in December, another 5 bills come. And it doesn't work so. Yes, there are people who send theirs on time, but then it means constantly you have to be making requests for resources to pay those bills. So we've said to them, look, it's been long enough. So please send us all the invoices, verify all of them, reconcile all of them, and we will make the payments. But we cannot continue making, part payments.
Any updates on the underwater sculpture park?
Yeah, that's progressing quite nicely. Next week I shall be receiving a presentation on a number of recommended sites. I think from all indications, the preliminary prelim assessment suggests that they probably will be between ancillary canneries. These have proven to be the best locations for it. Yeah, so we actively working on the first site, which will be depicting the history of St. Lucia. The other two sites will portray culture and tradition, but the first one will be history, and we should be commencing the production of the sculptures in January. So we're moving quite quickly. And I think after next week, when we receive the final report and the final selection is made, we'll probably take you on a tour so you can see exactly where it will be. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Minister, in promoting the destination, the upgrade of the seaports and airports, is pivotal. What would be the latest development in terms of, works at the airports and on the seaports? Of the GPH. What would be the latest in
terms of the seaports, the GPH project will start in January in terms of physical works. We will start very shortly with the demolition of the old customs building and the hoarding of that area, so the car park development can start and the new vendors arcade can start. You will also see some movement in terms of the boardwalk that will take place from the vendors arcade to the Sanssouci Bridge, and hopefully early next year we'll start with the relocation of the residents at Banans, so we can start that project. But we're expecting physical works to start in January. You'll also see some action taking place in Soufre. Already we're doing some temporary repairs to the jetty in Soufre, and some works will start in that. The airport, there's not much I can say. I'll have to get a brief on the airport. The last I knew was that the drawings had been completed in terms of the downsizing of the terminal. The full bill of quantities was being prepared to get the actual costings that it can go out to tender. So I will have to get an update whether it has gone out to tender, and to give you some timelines next week or so.
My question, let's go to CIP a little. There's some things I did not understand when in your statement, you said you noted that the Caribbean Galaxy sought the approval to raise more funds through the sale of citizenship due to the inflationary costs and the increased scope of the project. Your explanation did not address the matter of planning approval. Okay? So my question is, does the change in the scope of the project require planning approval? If yes, when was this planning approval sought and given? If you don't have that information.
No, but increasing which scope? So let me explain to you. Mm-hmm. So, and listen to me carefully. Carefully. So there's a Dreams Hotel being built, then a Zoe then private residences. Yeah? 3 different properties. So the Dreams Hotel, based on what was discussed in the last government, has been upgraded. So initially what was thought of in terms of the Dreams Hotel, it is substantially an upgraded property now, because AM Resorts revised all the scopes, all the scale. It probably approximates, a higher than a 5-star now. The Zoe is going to be expanded. It's not going to be what was originally there. It's going to be a much larger property. And the private residences will be increased as well. So you have 3 different hotels, 3 different scales increasing. Zone 3 has not started yet. The drawings are still being completed. It's been discussed with AM Resort, what the new size, what the new scale will be. But there's a clear understanding of what it will look like. And the residences, of course, will be increased to almost 500 residences. So DC approvals will come for that. The Dreams Hotel, in fact, when we came into government, there had been no DC approval for the hotel as yet. None. So the DC approval is actually an ongoing process now in terms of the different stages of the hotel. So they have made submissions, they have progress, and as the hotel expands with the new add-ons, they will get the DC approvals for it. So it's an ongoing process that's taking place right now. So you understand what
yeah, I take away.
yeah.
Okay, because it's ongoing,
Yeah.
so you cannot really. Okay. The other question I believe I spoke to you about it is about the vendors still complaining, saying that the taxi drivers do not want to stop, and they're saying that they're going to get charged if they stop. And that again, the season just opened and it came up again. I believe we had that conversation last year at the same time, and you said you'd look into it, but they are still complaining, saying we are seeing it passing, but the guys are saying, if I stop, I'm going to get charged. So could you please, that is what I was told last week. They told me if you see him before us, address it.
Everything you're told, you have to...
Yeah,
you know,
but they are saying, because they're feeling it.
So these
are
visitors coming from Point Seraphine, they want the buses to stop by the vendors arcade.
What they're saying, the drivers are saying,
Which
if
drivers?
I stop, the vendors from in both the arcade and the Castries Craft Market, they're saying the drivers are saying basically, if I stop, I get charged, so I ain't stopping there. Where will you put me? If I stay there, I bring them inside for you, but I get.
But taxis drop people at the vendors arcade.
But they move. But what they say, if so many, they say all they need is 30 minutes.
So you want taxis to be parking along the waterfront?
Well, it's not me, because what
minutes.
they're saying, our sales, we see them passing and they're not stopping.
No, because
so
there are passengers that leave Point Seraphine and they walk to Castries. They go to the market. They go to the vendors arcade. There are cruise ships on Carinage. People come off. They go to the vendors market arcade. They go to the market. So I'm trying to understand what they want. They want the taxis that come from Point Seraphine to park outside the market so the people can go inside the market.
Basically, what they're saying, we are seeing them passing and they're not stopping. The little that we are getting, if we could only get a few from the big buses, a big bus passing for about 30 on this.
Well, with the GPH, let me tell you, with the GPH, like I discussed earlier, they're going to be breaking down the customs building and develop parking there. It will be a much better organized scene. But again,
that's the problem, side.
But at the same time, every visitor that comes from Point Seraphine cannot go to the market, and some will bypass the market. They will go to Soufrière. To go to Soufrière and come back up, you have a limited amount of time. I mean, not every passenger that comes from Point Seraphine will stop to go to the vendors arcade. Some will bypass. They will go ATV tours. They will go to the sulfur baths. So, I mean, you know,
there's a balance.
Is a balance, because even when we do the banana development, some of the passengers will take tenders from Point Seraphine to go to Banana and head straight down, because just from Point Seraphine to come around the traffic, you lose 45 minutes of your tour time already. So I mean, we need to, you know, be able to recognize every visitor, every cruise ship passenger that comes to St. Lucia cannot go to the vendors arcade. That's a reality. In fact, I think the vendors should focus a lot on those that do come, how do we get them to buy? That's critically important, because more coming does not necessarily mean that more will buy. So they have to develop a lot of the sales techniques. We've done some training with them, how they treat the visitors too. And I keep saying that to them. I mean, I've visited the place a few times, and I said to them, look, you're a salesperson. The visitor doesn't have an obligation to have to buy. You have to welcome them. You have to make them feel comfortable. You have to make them want to buy from you. And some of them tell me, some of the visitors now say to me, why don't have you bought anything at the vendors market? Some of them don't carry cash. They use a card. You know, so we have to start thinking of, can the vendors association speak to the bank to get point of sale machines that will allow a vendor to just tap and pay the little 15 US because they don't want to carry cash with them. So the whole business is evolving and changing. And only recently the ministry had a competition, design your souvenir among secondary schools, where we said to secondary school children, design the souvenirs you want St. Lucia to be selling. Because everybody's saying everything we have is Chinese, and foreign. Well, let's design our own souvenirs and we'll get people to produce it to sell. So we had a competition and hopefully we will announce the winners to show you what people came up with. We have to sell more authentic, more local stuff, and also at affordable prices, because some of the visitors tell you the prices we charge for some of the stuff is really, for them, unreasonable. So yeah, we have to work it out. Yeah.